Imagine a bomber that could cruise at Mach 3, soar above 70,000 feet, and reach targets faster than any interceptor could climb. A plane designed not just to win a war, but to make the idea of war obsolete. That was the promise of the XB-70 Valkyrie. It was beautiful, terrifying, and ultimately, it was cancelled. Today we dive into the story of the Valkyrie, the ambition, the engineering, the politics, and the crash that ended a dream. Cold War need and program birth. In the 1950s, strategic doctrine was simple: nuclear deterrence required credible delivery systems. The B-52 was the workhorse, but it was subsonic and vulnerable. The Kennedy administration wanted an answer that would outrun and outclimb Soviet defenses: a high-altitude, Mach 3 strategic bomber. North American Aviation proposed a radical aircraft, the XB-70. It was not just faster. It was a rethinking of how lift, speed, and stealth could work together at extreme altitude. The Air Force funded the concept as part of a race to maintain a strategic edge. Design and cutting-edge technology. The XB-70 was a technological manifesto. Twin fuselages flowed into a long, pointed nose. 6 massive engines conceived to use ram effect and afterburner efficiency would push the Valkyrie comfortably past Mach 3. The airframe used stainless steel and titanium alloys to survive skin temperatures that could exceed 600 degrees Fahrenheit. One of the Valkyrie's most striking innovations was compression lift. At high speed, the shock wave beneath the aircraft actually added lift. Engineers designed its wing and fuselage so the plane would literally ride its own shock wave. To optimize that effect, the XB-70 had folding wingtips that drooped at supersonic speed, trapping the shock and improving stability. Performance goals and the dream mission. In theory, the Valkyrie would fly at 70,000 feet and 2,000 plus miles per hour. Fast enough to penetrate Soviet airspace, drop weapons, and be gone before interceptors could respond. Its planned role was strategic nuclear delivery with near invulnerability to contemporary fighters and SAMs. The military imagined a bomber that could shift the balance simply by its existence. Reality creeps in, threats and changing doctrine. But technology and strategy change fast. While XB-70 was being developed, surface-to-air missile systems grew more capable. The Soviets deployed new SAMs and faster interceptors. Simultaneously, ballistic missiles and submarine-launched systems matured, reducing the relative value of crewed high-altitude penetrators. Cost also became an issue. The Valkyrie program was expensive. Estimates that once seemed tolerable for a decisive advantage began to look less convincing when weighed against ballistic missiles and missile defense counters. By the early 1960s, the strategic calculus was shifting. Politics, budgets and cancellation. Politics played a decisive role. Congress and the Pentagon questioned whether millions, even billions, in procurement should go to a small fleet of exotic bombers. The Kennedy and Johnson administrations redirected resources to ICBMs, Polaris submarines, and other programs that promised survivable deterrence at lower long-term cost. The original plan for dozens of Valkyries was slashed. What remained were two prototype airframes, the X-plane test beds, repurposed for research rather than production. The XB-70 moved from frontline weapon to flying laboratory. Testing, flights and public spectacle. The XB-70S flew impressively. Test pilots pushed the envelope, investigating high-speed handling, thermal effects, and structural dynamics. The Valkyrie became a public spectacle, appearing at airshows and test ranges as a symbol of American aerospace daring. Engineers learned valuable lessons about materials expansion, shock control, and thermal management. Many of those lessons fed directly into later high-speed and high-altitude programs, including reconnaissance and propulsion research that influenced other aircraft. The June 1966 crash, turning point. On a clear June day in 1966, during a high-profile photo formation flight that included chase planes, a tragic accident ended one prototype and many hopes. In a close formation maneuver, a smaller jet moved into the XB-70's vortex and collided with one of the Valkyrie prototypes. The resulting breakup destroyed the aircraft and killed a pilot, another was critically injured. The crash was catastrophic not only for the airframe but for the program's political momentum. Public confidence fell, media scrutiny intensified, and the case for a high-cost production run weakened further. The Valkyrie, always a blend of promise and peril, had suffered a fatal blow. Legacy, technology that outlived the program. Though it never entered service as intended, the XB-70's DNA survives. Its breakthroughs in high-speed aerodynamics, materials, and test procedures pushed aerospace engineering forward. The Valkyrie informed research that later showed up in prototypes, high-speed engines, and even conceptual hypersonic vehicles. Today, one XB-70 remains on public display, a museum piece that looks like a spacecraft more than a bomber. It reminds engineers and the public that sometimes the boldest experiments leave the deepest technical legacies. Why the Valkyrie matters today. Why tell this story now? Because the XB-70 encapsulates a key truth about aerospace: ambition and politics are inseparable. The Valkyrie asks how far a nation will go to secure advantage, and what price it will pay for that edge. In an era now chasing hypersonics and stealth, the Valkyrie is a cautionary, inspiring chapter. Brilliant ideas sometimes outpace politics, but their lessons endure. Conclusion. If you found the XB-70's story as fascinating as we do, hit like and subscribe and tell us in the comments. Would you have built a fleet of Valkyries, or was canceling the right call? For more deep dives into the most daring aircraft of the Cold War and beyond, stay tuned to Jetgine.
It is these future tests which are expected to prove many of the new concepts of design and materials which have been incorporated into the XB-70A.